Having a baby in medieval Europe presented women with a set of acute challenges and dangers. As labor pain kicked in, many medieval women lent on expertise of experienced professionals. Teams of midwives were often called in to assist the childbirth. Childbirth in the Middle Ages was a community effort. Family members, parish priests, and local experts all lent a hand, and when midwives were called in to assist, they often worked in teams. A late 12th century English account described the presence of 7 midwives at a labor. Midwives were expected to be moral arbiters, but sometimes their conduct came under scrutiny. In 1481, the English midwife Agnes Marshall was accused of using quasi magical incantations. Indeed, English midwives, poorly paid and sometimes suspected of witchcraft, had a less positive experience than their counterparts in France and Germany, who received professional trainings. Physicians and surgeons only rarely assisted the women at childbirth, although doctor was sometimes called upon when aristocratic women gave birth. When it came to giving birth in the Middle Ages, there was no place like home. Most medieval women went through labor in a domestic and non-medicalized environment, and if they were aristocratic and merchant class, they often meant retiring to a birthing chamber, a darkened room provided with soft furnishing. In sharp contrast to today, the hospitals were very much at last resort of women in labor. Medieval hospitals were charitable institutions for the sick people, and fittingly it was women in unstable domestic situation who found themselves in hospitals' birth wards. Unmarried mothers were especially in need of hospital care. Patients in birthing wards still had access to knowledge of midwives, and by the end of their careers, these midwives must have had great experience not only of childbirth but also of social difficulties faced by the women, especially the poor women. There were some books in the medieval times written on this topic, like Trotula, the principal text on women's health, that circulated in the 12th century. Another by the physician Aldobrandino in the 13th century. One English manuscript from the 15th century mixes herbals and magico-religious remedies intended to bring about a safe delivery. The laboring woman is advised to drink hysops, a herb of mint family, in hot water. It's easy to imagine the childbirth as a harrowing experience for a medieval woman, with little access to pain relief or control over what was happening to her. However, the birthing chamber was well equipped, and midwives had experience to ensure a smooth delivery and to intervene when complication arose. Midwives also needed to be prepared to take action if the mother died, but the infant was still living. In these situations, a caesarean section could be performed, either by the midwife or by the surgeon called in to intervene. Following the delivery of a living infant, the umbilical cord was cut and tied with a soft woolen thread. Medieval people believed that several saints supported a safe pregnancy and birth. Perhaps unsurprisingly, the majority of these saints were female, and most prominent of them all were Virgin Mary and Saint Margaret. In the 12th century, following a difficult delivery, Empress Matilda, daughter of the English King Henry I, gratefully donated the silk mattress on which she lay during her illness for the benefit of the leprosy sufferers. Archaeological evidence of some parts of medieval England indicates that 19% of the infants died before the age of 2. After the birth, the vulnerable infant was furnished with objects and believed to have protective powers, such as coral and amber amulets. The mother remained within the birthing chamber for 4 to 6 weeks for the period of confinement, which prevented her from rejoining her community but allowing her to rest and regain her strength. This was part of cleansing process that reflected the belief that mother's body was made impure by the childbirth, much as the woman was understood to be contaminated during menstruations. After the long confinement, the mother was ritually accepted back into the parish church. She met the priest in the porch to be sprinkled with holy water, then made an offering and received mass. This rite was known as churching. This ritual showed that women has once again become pure and ready to join her community.